Hi everyone, this is Khushbu Chokshi and today we will be discussing about the Negotiable Instrument Act, which comes for around 14 marks for your CAFC examination. This is an optional question. So two questions are asked, both of them are optional. One is a theory kind of a question, the other is a case study kind of a question. But it is the case study questions also asked are quite simple, and theory questions are of course plain descriptive questions. So it is something that can be easily attempted and it would not really be worth leaving it out or keeping it as an option. So let's begin with what is Negotiable Instrument Act. We have simplified it as much as possible so that it's easier for you to understand the Negotiable Instrument Act. Though it is a part of your CA Inter, it was earlier a part of CA Inter and now CFC, a lot of things have been removed from the inter portion. So whatever you have is quite, it's not the entire act and it's quite simple and easy to understand. So let's go ahead and see what it means. So what is a negotiable instrument? A negotiable instrument is any instrument which can be negotiated. So basically this act will cover only instruments which are bills of exchange, checks and promissory notes. So it will cover only these three instruments. These can be easily negotiated. So you can endorse it, you can transfer it and you can negotiate it like how we negotiate money. So it's called as a negotiable instrument. There are certain specific features of a negotiable instrument which, if asked, so you just have to remember these features, and if asked for bill of exchange, promissory note and check, the features remain the same because of course all three of them are negotiable instruments, and a few things will be added specific to that kind of a negotiable instrument. So for example, a promissory note is a promise to pay. So it will say that it's a promise to pay, whereas a bill of exchange is a order to pay. So it will say that it's an order to pay. So that's the difference. In promissory note, you will have two parties. In bills of exchange, you may have three parties. So these are some additional differences which will be there. But the basic characteristics of a negotiable instrument remains the same all throughout. And if theory question is asked on what are the characteristics of say a bill of exchange or what are the characteristics of promissory note, you can write down the same answer and just modify it depending on which instrument is asked and you will get your marks. Okay. So here, very simple, it says it has to be in writing, it has to be signed. Because it's called a negotiable instrument, it is something which is freely transferable from one person to another, of course. The holder's title is free from defects. So if I commit any fraud, if I steal someone's instrument and I pass it on to someone, the new buyer, if he gets it in good faith, then in that case he will get a good title to the instrument, is what it means. The further part about holder and all of that has been removed for CFC, so that's not there. This is all you need to know about holder's title. Then it can be transferred any number of times till satisfaction. Till the instrument is paid, you can transfer it any number of times you like. It has to be an unconditional promise or order to pay. So there should not be any conditions attached that I will pay you this instrument or I'll pay you the sum that's mentioned in this instrument provided you do this for me, or provided these are the conditions that are satisfied, only then I will make the payment. There are no conditions attached in a negotiable instrument. It has to be an order to pay money only, and the sum has to be certain. The sum has to be a certain definite sum, and it has to be a promise to pay money and money only. You cannot promise to pay something which is not money or something which is in kind. Okay. Now coming to promissory note. So promissory note, like I said, the essential characteristics are very similar to what you have for a negotiable instrument. So first you say it's in writing, it's a promise to pay. We know that because that's a characteristic of a negotiable instrument. It should be definite and unconditional. That is also something known. In the promise to pay, just one point that I would highlight here is that when if a question is asked, so a 5-mark question may be asked saying that, okay, tell me whether the following are promissory notes or not. So if I say I promise to pay rupees 5,000 at the end of 3 months from the date of making this, then it's a promissory note. But if I say that, okay, Mr. B, I owe you rupees 5,000. So I am just saying that I owe you this sum. I am not promising you to pay that particular amount. So that is not a promissory note. So if there is a I owe you kind of a statement, then please remember it's not a promissory note. Okay. It should be definite and unconditional, again something that we know. But here something important they have added is that if a promissory note is subject to a condition and that condition states something which according to the ordinary experience of mankind is bound to happen. The condition is such that it is bound to happen. So, for example, if I tell you that I will pay you rupees 10,000 on A's death. Now, A's death is bound to happen, not today, after 70 years, 80 years, I don't know. But it is something that is bound to happen. And such kind of a condition in a promissory note is something which is valid. But if I tell you that I will pay you rupees 5,000 on C's marriage. Now, C's marriage may happen, may not happen. That is something that is not necessary that is going to happen. So, if such a condition is there, then it's not a valid condition. But a condition which is bound to happen in ordinary experience of mankind, then I will say that, okay, this is something that I will pay and this condition is a valid condition. Or if I say something like, there's one example here that I will pay you rupees 5,000 if D leaves me enough money to pay. Again, something which is not necessary that it will happen, but there's a possibility that he may not leave anything, he may become insolvent or bankrupt, we don't know. So that is why this condition is not a valid condition. It must be signed by the maker, must be promised to pay money only, promise has to be to pay a certain sum. All of these things are same as what you study there. Again, it has to be properly stamped. So these are all characteristics of a negotiable instrument. Now, one new point here is that the maker pay must be certain and definite person. Who is the maker? The person who is making the instrument. If I have to pay you 5,000, I say I promise to pay you rupees 5,000 on say on 30th of September. So in this case, what is happening? I am the maker and I am going to pay you the amount. So you are the payee. So there are two parties, maker and payee. Correct? So characteristics of negotiable instrument plus two new conditions we study for promissory note. One, there are two parties, maker and payee, and second, that conditions can be attached, and if these conditions are such which are in ordinary experience of mankind bound to happen, then that condition is a valid condition. Now, again, one more thing is that you cannot have an instrument which is payable to a bearer. Bearer, you know, is basically an instrument which we will study here also. So let's do it right now only. Bearer and order instrument. So bearer instrument is, if you have, say, you must have seen a bearer check. So if you go to the bank with a bearer check, the bank will give you the money. If you are going by train and the check falls and someone else picks it up and he goes to the bank will give that person the money. So bearer instrument, whoever goes and collects it, is a bearer instrument. Order instrument is where it is to my order to be payable to you and you only. So if the check falls down, I've cut the words or bearer, then even if it's in your name, then no one else can take that amount because it's a order instrument. So that's the difference between a bearer instrument and a order instrument. Now it is saying that in a promissory note, you cannot have a bearer instrument. So if you ever see your currency notes, on that you will see it's a promissory note which is payable to bearer, and that promissory note payable to bearer can be issued because it's a note, correct? So that currency notes can be issued only by RBI. So it's saying that you cannot have a promissory note which is payable to bearer, only RBI can issue that, okay? So that is about your promissory notes. Now coming to bill of exchange. Again we see bill of exchange, same conditions. It has to be in writing, it has to be an order to pay. That in promissory note it was a promise to pay. This is an order to pay. It has to be definite and unconditional. It must be signed. Again same, sum must be there and the certain sum to pay money and money only, and it must be stamped. So all these characteristics remain the same. What are the new things here? Drawer, drawee and pay must be certain. So here we have three parties. So now if we see here, what happens is that, for example, just a second, say for example we have Mr. Sept, who is the creditor, okay, and we have Mrs. Reith, who is the debtor. This is also there in the notes that I'll provide on the Telegram channel, so you can see it from there if there is any confusion. So I'm using the same example. So now Sam is the creditor, Mrs. Reith is the debtor. Mrs. Reith has purchased certain goods from Sam for which she has to pay 50,000 rupees. So she is telling Sam that you raise a bill of exchange and I will make the payment. So Sam raises a bill of exchange on Mrs. Reith. So Sam will say, okay, you have to pay me 50,000. So he raises the bill of exchange. He is called as the drawer. And the person on whom the bill of exchange is raised is called as the drawee. Okay, so Mrs. Reith will see the bill of exchange. She will accept the bill of exchange that okay, this is the amount that has to be paid. So she will also become the acceptor. Not necessary that the acceptor and the drawee may be the same person. It can be different persons also, but most of the times it will be the same person. So she becomes the acceptor. Now on the due date, she has to pay the amount to Sam, and if she pays the amount to Sam, then she will become the payee, like how you were the payee in the promissory note. So he becomes the payee. Now in the same situation, if this does not happen and Sam says that I have to pay 50,000 to Mrs. Pam. So he endorses this bill of exchange to Mrs. Pam and says that you can take 50,000 from Mrs. Reith. Okay. So on the due date, if Mrs. Reith pays Mrs. Pam, then she becomes the payee. So person who is receiving the payment will become the payee. So this is drawer, who is basically the creditor who is drawing the bill of exchange. You have the drawee, who is the debtor who is accepting the bill of exchange, also the acceptor, and you have the person to whom the payment is going. So the drawer and the payee may be the same person or different persons, and the drawee and acceptor may be same person or different person. Correct? That's a possible scenario. Now, there's one more option here. What happens is that when Mrs. Reith is the debtor, she is accepting it. But Sam does not have confidence in Mrs. Reith. So he says that I am not very sure if you will be able to make the payment to me. So what Sam does is that he says, I want someone else to give me the guarantee that if you don't pay, then that person will pay to me. Like how we have guarantee contracts, we have a surety. Similar to a surety, we have your Mr. Reith. So he says, don't worry, if she doesn't pay, I will pay the amount. So he becomes a drawee in case of need. Are we understanding? So he is a drawee in case of need, who is similar to a surety you have in your guarantee contracts under the Contract Act. Then you have a drawee and a drawer, and you have the payee. So these are the parties to a bill of exchange, and this is how the bill of exchange works. Are we understanding? Now, how did I negotiate? Okay, so we are going to the next part. We will look at the check part. It's pending here, but I'm first taking you to negotiation of negotiable instrument. Okay, so here how did this instrument come here, and how did Mrs. Pam get the payment which Mr. Sam has drawn? So in this, what happens is that on the back of the instrument you can negotiate it, you can endorse the instrument. So when I am endorsing, so I will write Sam will write to Mrs. Pam, and then Sam will sign. Now this can be negotiated any number of times. Whoever wants to negotiate, who can negotiate on the date of maturity, whoever is the holder can go and take the money from the drawee. Okay, but this negotiation, when I am doing, the most important thing to remember here is that if it's a bearer instrument, okay, it's a bearer instrument like a check. I told you, a bearer check which I can go to the bank, take the money. So bearer instrument I can negotiate only by way of delivery. That is fine. But when it comes to order instruments, then in that case what I have to do is that I have to endorse plus I have to deliver. I have to do both of these things. I have to endorse it also, and I have to deliver it also. There was an exam question asked which said that Mr. A endorsed the negotiable instrument in the name of Mr. B and kept it in his drawer. Then on the next day he had intended to deliver it to Mr. B, but next day Mr. A died and he could not deliver it. Hence, now the legal representatives want to deliver this negotiable instrument to Mr. B. Can they do so under the Negotiable Instrument Act? This is the question that is being asked. So here we have to remember that for negotiation I have to endorse plus I have to deliver. And if I have endorsed, only I can deliver. My legal representatives cannot just endorse it by delivery because it's an order instrument. So here if Mr. A dies after endorsing but before delivery, the legal representatives cannot go just deliver and negotiate. No, they cannot do that. What they have to do is that they will have to endorse it in their name, whatever Mr. A's son, and then after endorsing they will deliver it to Mr. B, and that would be a good negotiation. Otherwise you cannot negotiate only by way of mere delivery because it's an order instrument. Bearer instrument, yes, you can endorse by mere delivery, that's absolutely okay. But order instrument you have to endorse by negotiation and by delivery. Are we understanding that? So here's a small chart here in the book which will help you. It says that a bearer instrument, any bearer instrument, promissory note, bill of exchange or check, can be endorsed by delivery, but order instrument can be endorsed only by endorsement and delivery. I have to do both of them. I can't do just one and endorse. Okay. In this endorsement, there are certain rules. It has to be voluntary, and object of delivery should be to pass the property. Delivery can be actual or constructive delivery like we have studied in Sale of Goods Act. Then if there is a condition or a special purpose instrument. So for example, I have an instrument on which I have said that you cannot, it's a negotiable instrument where I am saying that you cannot endorse this instrument till the time 6 floors of this building are built. After 6 floors are done, you can go and negotiate the instrument. So, I have put a condition on the bill of exchange, say for example. So, in this case, it is saying that where there is a condition put, in that case, you can negotiate only after this is complete. Before that, if I negotiate, then it will not be a valid negotiation. Then, delivery is essential not only at the time of negotiation but also at the time of making or drawing the negotiable instrument, and rights in the instrument are not transferred to the endorsee unless after the endorsement the same has been delivered. So if the person dies, this is the section number which talks about the example which is asked in the examination. So if the person dies, the legal representative cannot negotiate it by only delivery. They have to endorse and then deliver. Okay, so this is about your bills of exchange. Now coming to check. Check is your bill of exchange. Everything that is there for a bill of exchange, it's order to pay, writing, must be signed, must be stamped, all of that is the same. The only difference here is that in case of a check, sorry, I'm just looking at the pen. Yes. So in case of a check, the drawee is always a banker. So you have to have a banker who is a drawee. And in check, always the drawee is the person to whom you go and say, and then the bank will give you the money. So banker is always the drawee. That's the difference between a bill of exchange and a check. Everything else remains the same. Now coming to the next part, we have studied about the parties, drawer, drawee, draw in case of need and pay. So we know that. Bearer instrument, order instrument we have discussed. Inland instrument and foreign instrument. Again, very important from your exam perspective. What is it saying? That a inland instrument is drawn or made in India, or it is made payable in India. So if it is drawn upon a person resident in India. So if you have drawn or made the instrument in India, and that is one scenario, or you have drawn or made the instrument in India and you have made it payable upon a person in India, then it's an inland instrument. But if it is drawn outside India or drawn outside India and made payable outside India, then in that case it will be called as a foreign instrument. So there are a list of exam questions or the difference between inland and foreign that we have done in another video. So I'll be sharing a link and you can refer that for the difference and seeing how the different examples work for inland and foreign instrument. Then Coming to inchoate and ambiguous instrument. Inchoate instruments are basically instruments which are not completely not complete in all aspects. There's something which is incomplete in the instrument, hence it's called a inchoate instrument. It's basically called as an incomplete instrument. So if my instrument looks something like this, there's something that is not there, probably some amount is not there, or the date is not written, or the address is not given, or the sign is not, something is missing in that. So it is called as an inchoate instrument, where it is not complete in all aspects. And then you have your ambiguous instruments. Ambiguous means confusion. So there's ambiguity. There's no clarity on this instrument. Say for example, in our example, instead of Mrs. Reed or instead of HDFC Bank, if this instrument was drawn on Harry Potter, okay, now Harry Potter is actually, do we have a person called Harry Potter? No, it's a fictitious person. So here Harry Potter is the drawee. Now tomorrow if Mrs. Pam goes to Harry Potter, is Harry Potter going to give the money? No, because there's no Harry Potter. So who is ending up giving the money? Sam. So if Sam only has to give the money, then why would he raise a fictitious bill on a person, or he'll raise a bill of exchange on a fictitious person? So there's an ambiguity. So ambiguity is no clarity or confusion kind of a situation, and that is called as an ambiguous instrument. Okay. Negotiation we have studied. Now coming to dishonor of check, again here important for case study type of questions. So here what is happening is that it is saying that if you ever give a check to someone and this check is bounced due to insufficiency of funds in your account. So I give you a check say for 10,000 rupees and you don't get that 10,000 rupees because in my account I have only 8,000 rupees. So in this case what is happening, that the check has bounced, and if the check has bounced, then in that case it will be considered to be an offense punishable under section 138. Now, the most important thing to be remembered here, and which can be asked as a case study question, is that this payment which you are making with a check has to be in discharge of a debt or a liability. So you should have a liability for which you have given a check, which has now been bounced. So it will be then under section 138. But if I give you something as a gift, or if I give you as charity, and that amount is bounced, then I am not liable under 138. I am only and only liable if it is for a debt or liability. If it is not for debt or liability, the payment is not for payment of a debt or a liability, it's only a gift, or I'm just giving you the amount just to, like, if I'm giving you say pocket money every month, so that's not for a debt or liability, I'm just giving you pocket money, correct? So here if the check bounces, then in that case I'm not liable. But if it's for a payment of debt or liability, then there is a liability on the person. So here again the question that will be asked in the examination, one is about this point on debt, second can be on stop payments. So I gives the check to you, and then I tell the bank that okay, I have changed my mind, so stop payment. You don't process the payment if the person comes with the check. So if I am going to ask you a question on stop payment, again 138 will come if it is for payment of debt or other liability. What is the offense here? Offense here is imprisonment, which may extend up to 2 years, or with fine, which may extend to twice the amount of check, or with both. So these are the penalty that is leviable. Now so these are the two questions that you will they will be asking about section 138, which is practical case study question. Theory questions are less likely in case of section 138. One important thing to remember here is that the check has a validity period of 3 months. So from the date I issue the check, you have to deposit with the bank within a period of 3 years. 3 months. And if you don't deposit it within a period of 3 months, then it becomes a stale check. So this section 138 will be applicable provided you have deposited the check within a period of 3 months. Otherwise, it is not applicable. Yes. Then coming to the last part of the chapter, which is called as presentment. So it is about presenting the instrument. So when it is presented, and it is presented after sight, So you have to say presentment after sight, which means that once it has been presented, after I have seen that, I get 48 hours to accept the instrument. In 48 hours, I have to accept the instrument and I have to make you the payment. So this is called as presentment after sight. Now presentment has to be done at a place which has been specified between the parties, that this is the place where we will present the instrument. It has to be done during reasonable office hours, at usual place of business if nothing has been specified. So you can either present it at the usual place of business or at usual place of residence within the normal business working hours. So I can't go at 12 in the night or 5 in the morning, because that is not usual working hours. Usual is 9 to 7, somewhere between 9 to 7 on a working day. I cannot go on a public holiday. That is something which is not allowed. So I have to go, I have to present it, and once I have presented it, then I will get the payment. If I don't get the payment after presentment, then it is said that the instrument has been dishonored. What happens if instrument is dishonored? Luckily, we don't have it for our course, so that is why we don't have to study about that. But we know that it has been dishonored. If I have to present it on a particular date, but I haven't presented it on any particular date, then no parties are liable to you, because you have not presented it on that particular date. So that is the other point. Now on this, a case study or a 1 mark 2 mark question possible on presentment. What is important here is a theory question which can be asked on when presentment is not necessary. This is being asked in your May 24 examination as a theory question. It is saying that when is presentment not necessary, when I am not supposed to present. First is that any of the party prevents you from presenting. The act protects you. He says that you had to present it, go to the business place and present it, but some parties are not there, or they are not going to be there. They are not allowing you inside the premises to present. So if someone is preventing you from presentment, act says I will protect you. You don't have to present the instrument. Second, it's saying that if it is payable at a business place and such place is closed, there's no one there, where if you go during the business working hours, no one is there, and in that case presentment is not necessary, because it was told that you have to come at this place for presentment. No one's there at this place for presentment, so it is not required to be presented. Then you have during usual working hours, there's no one available at that particular location if you go to place of business or place of residence. Then you cannot find the person to whom you have to present. He cannot be found after due search. Then in that case again presentment is not necessary, because if you can't find him, then he has to pay you that amount. So if you can't find him, act is saying okay, no problem, I will protect you. And if the person has made part payment, so I have presented the instrument for 50,000, he has paid me 25,000. So again for the balance 25,000 which is pending, I don't have to again make a presentment. Once I have made and part payment has been received, balance part he just has to pay me. I don't have to present it now. Or he promises to pay the whole amount due. He has promised me that he will pay me the 50,000 rupees without presentment. Then in that case I will not present. Or he waives off his right to take that presentment. Then in that case I will not present. So these are the situations where presentment is not necessary. A theory question, because it's asked in May 24, less likely to come for you, but you never know, they may ask the same question again. So theory question, this is one point where they can ask you a proper theory question. The last part is pertaining to compensation. So he's saying that if something has been dishonored, then what is the compensation that you can ask for as a party who is affected? So here three things are there. One is that you can ask for the expenses which you have incurred in making the negotiable instrument, presentment or endorsing, all of that expenses that you have incurred, the stamp that you have paid, all of that you can claim. Second is that if it is there is a rate of exchange difference, if there is that in your negotiable instrument there is a possibility of rate of exchange difference, then the difference in the rate of exchange is something you can claim. And third is you can claim interest at the rate of 18%. Again, this was a point which was asked as a case study question for CA Inter. When this was taught in CA Inter, they used to ask on this interest at 18%, that if it's dishonored, how much interest I can claim. So this is again one question that can be asked as a case study type of question. So This is it about negotiable instrument. I hope I have simplified it for you, made it easy for you to understand. If you still have any questions, you can always comment and I'll help you out with the solutions. And do not forget to see the case study questions for negotiable instruments that we have discussed. It will help you in understanding the kind of question asked. It may seem to be technical, but trust me, it is quite scoring and very easy to understand. So all the very best and hope this helps you. Thank you so much.